Sushruta for NEET is now available on the Google Play Store. Try it out for free.
Hi, my dear students. Hearty welcome to Jnanamarga.in biology classes. I am Professor G.K. Bhatt. Let us now start the chapters of 12th standard. In this class, I am dealing with the first chapter of 12th standard biology, that is reproduction in organisms. You know, each and every organism is very particular about the continuity of its race. Only if at all any organism reproduces its young ones, then its life cycle is complete. And this should be done at the appropriate time. As you are aware, each and every organism can live only for a certain period of time. So during this lifetime, first few days or few years are spent for the growth. Gradually, the organism attains maturity. It reproduces. It becomes old. Then the organism dies. The period from birth to the natural death of an organism is called its lifespan. So this question is always asked in the exam. What is lifespan or define lifespan? The period from birth to the natural death. Remember, it is the natural death of an organism represents its lifespan. Now let us look into the figure 1.1 given in NCERT book, which indicates you the lifespan of a few organisms. Let us see them. In some of these pictures, the bracket is indicated blank. In some other pictures, lifespan of this organism is written in the bracket. Now let us fill up all that what is blank. As far as the lifespan of an elephant is concerned, it is generally said that the lifespan ranges between 40 to 65 years. 40 to 65 years. Rose, it lives for about 5 to 7 years. If at all you have one rose plant, you can expect this rose plant to flower for 5 years continuously. Even it extends up to 7 years. Dog has the lifespan of 13 to 20 years. Then butterfly about 15 days, 2 weeks. Crow 15 years. Banana tree, its rhizome, whatever you come across, it lives for about 25 years. Cow's lifespan is 15 to 20 years. Parakeet or parrot 140 years. Crocodile 60 years. Horse 30 to 60 years. Fruit fly again around 15 to 30 days. Rice plant 3 to 4 months. Tortoise around 150 years. Banyan tree 200 years. Mango tree has the lifespan of about 250 years, and people tree, Ficus religiosa, can live for about 2500 years. This lifespan, whatever you have got in this particular chart or in this particular figure, we have to remember very much. Generally asked in the examination. It is both interesting and intriguing to note that it may be as short as few days or as long as a few thousand years if you look into the lifespan of a mini organism. Lifespan, as you know, it varies from few days. If at all it is viruses, bacteria, few hours. And as long as few thousands of years, if at all you look into any of these, some of these plants. Between these two extremes, very few days or few thousands of years, the lifespans of most other living organisms lies. You may note that lifespans of organisms are not necessarily correlated with their size. It's a very important point. Lifespan is not correlated with the size of the organism. It is never related with the size. For example, look at the size of the crow. You know, size of the crow and size of the parrots are almost identical. Sizes of the crows and parrots are not very different. They are identical. But the lifespan of the crow and the lifespan of the parrots show a wide difference. As it is indicated, the lifespan of crow is 15 years and the lifespan of a parrot 140 years. Even though they are almost of the same size, their lifespan varies very much. Similarly, a mango tree has a much shorter lifespan when compared to that of the people tree. Many times we come across very huge mango tree to the extent of size of the people tree, Ficus religiosa, and the lifespan of a mango tree is only around 250 years, whereas the lifespan of the people tree is about 2500 years. Whatever may be the lifespan, we know that the death of every individual organism is certain. Death of every individual organism is certain. The once born, an individual has to die. Death is certain. That means no individual is immortal except single-celled organisms. Except a single-celled organism. Death is very much evident. As far as the single-celled organism is concerned, there is no natural death. Why? Before dying, a single-celled organism grows and divides into two daughter cells. A mother cell or parental cell grows and divides into two daughter cells, and these two daughter cells they grow again and again divide and form two more daughter cells. As such, there is no death in a single-celled organism, or we say single-celled organisms are immortal. They never die. But it is not applicable to all other organisms. These organisms live from few days to few years to thousands of years. Right from birth, before the death, the organisms show very important mechanism for the continuity of their race, that is called reproduction. So, in this case, we are talking about reproduction. What is reproduction? Reproduction. It is production of the offspring by the parent. Reproduction is defined as a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones or offspring similar to itself. Reproduction of its own type. A dog produces puppies. A cat produces kittens. So, reproduction is a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones or offspring similar to itself. It resembles the parent. Always ask a question for 1 mark. What is reproduction? Define reproduction. You have to write reproduction is a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones or offsprings of it resemblance or similar to itself. This offspring grow, mature, and in turn produce new individuals or in turn produce new offspring. Thus, there is a cycle, and this life cycle involves birth, growth, and death. That is what we call life cycle. Life cycle involves birth of an organism, growth of an organism, and death of an organism. The whole thing, it is referred as a lifespan of an organism. Reproduction enables the continuity of the species, generation after generation. Whenever the young one is born, it grows, it reproduces, and dies. This newly produced young one, it again grows, reproduces, dies. So, reproduction enables the continuity of the species generation after generation. So, with regard to reproduction, each and every organism has evolved its own mechanism to multiply and produce offspring. So, if you look into the living world, there is a large diversity in the biological world. And in this biological world, each organism has evolved its own method, its own mechanism to multiply and produce offspring. And in this mechanism, the place where the organism lives, that means the habitat of the organism, its internal physiology, and several other factors are collectively responsible for how it reproduces. So, the organism's habitat is the place where the organism lives, its internal physiology, which is concerned with the production of the gametes, and several other factors, including environmental factors, are collectively responsible for how it reproduces. For example, if you look into the animals which live on the land, the method of reproduction and release of the gametes will be different. The organism which live in water, here I am telling the habitat. The organism which live in water, their method of reproduction, their method of releasing of the gametes will be different. So, organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and the factors, internal and external factors, are all collectively responsible for how an organism reproduces. Based on whether there is a participation of one organism or two organisms in the process of reproduction, reproduction is of two types. Reproduction is basically of two types. One is asexual reproduction and another one is sexual reproduction. What is the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction? That we are going to see now. So, whether only one parent is participating in the reproduction or two parents, two organisms are participating in the reproduction, reproduction is of two types. When the offspring is produced by a single parent, that means only one organism is involved here. When the offspring is produced by a single parent, with or without the involvement of gamete formation, or with or without the involvement of the sex organ, the reproduction is called asexual reproduction. Always ask the question, what is asexual reproduction? In what way it is different from sexual reproduction? So, whenever an organism produces the offspring without the involvement of the sex organ, without the production of the gamete, the reproduction is known as asexual. And asexual reproduction is always shown by a single parent or single organism. In contrast to this, when two parents of opposite sex, male and female, when two parents of opposite sex participate in the reproductive process and also involve fusion of male and female gametes, it is called sexual reproduction. It is called sexual reproduction. There are two types of reproduction. One is asexual and it's asexual. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent or one organism, only one organism or one parent, and this asexual reproduction does not involve the production of gametes. Whereas in a sexual reproduction, two parents are involved and gamete formation is seen. So, if two parents are involved and gamete formation is seen, that reproduction is sexual reproduction, and here sexual organs are involved. When two parents of opposite sex, one male, another female, participate in a process of reproduction and sex organs are involved, and this involves the fusion of a male and female gametes, then this reproduction is called sexual reproduction. So let us make it very clear. Asexual reproduction, only one parent is involved. Sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. Asexual reproduction, sex organs are not used. Sexual reproduction, sex organs are involved. Sex organs are used. And in asexual reproduction, no gamete formation is seen. In a sexual reproduction, gamete formation is seen and gamete fusion is seen. Fusion of the gametes take place. And these are the major differences between asexual and sexual. We shall look into a little bit more. Now, let us study asexual reproduction in detail. In detail. In the asexual reproduction or in this method of reproduction, a single individual or what we say parent is involved in the production of offspring. So, because only one parent is involved, the offspring are not only identical to one another, but also exact copies of their parent. When only one parent, only one offspring, one parent or one organism produces offspring, progeny, all the progeny are identical. Not only they are identical, even they are the exact copies of their parent. Now the question is that, genetically, are they similar to the parent, identical to the parent, or different? Answer is, these are genetically, the progeny or offspring are genetically identical to the parent. The term clone is used, very important. Always ask a question, what is a clone? Define clone. The term clone is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individuals. We have already seen at the beginning that the offspring produced by one individual or offspring produced by one organism, when only one parent, one organism is involved in production, the offspring produced by that parent are all identical and they are also exact copies of their parent. So, morphologically, they are similar, offspring are similar to the parent, genetically are also similar to the parent. So, there is no difference in the genes when you compare one progeny, one offspring with another offspring. There is no difference between the offspring and the parent also. And the term clone, is used to describe such morphologically and genetically identical individuals or similar individuals. Let us see how widespread asexual reproduction is. Now the question is that is it that this asexual reproduction is the same in all the organisms living in this animal in the living world? No. Asexual reproduction is different in different groups of organisms. Let us see. Asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms. As you know, single-celled organisms generally, after their growth, they divide and form two cells. And this is asexual reproduction. And this is a common method of reproduction in a single-celled organism. Very rarely, single-celled organisms will show different types of sexual reproduction also. Asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms and in the plants and animals with a relatively simple organization. It is seen in the plants and animals with a simple organization. Let us see some of the examples. In the protists, you have studied the protists in the last year. Monera also you have studied last year. You know, the Protista, Monera, these are the kingdoms under 5 kingdom classification of Whitaker. Okay. In a kingdom Protista and kingdom Monera, the organism or the parent cell divides into two to give rise to two new individual. So which are the examples for Protista? You have studied in the last year. Again, I would like to recall these examples. Kingdom Protista includes the groups like chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, protozoans. These are the groups coming under the kingdom Protista, and all these examples, all these groups which you see here, they are known to reproduce asexually. Then, kingdom Monera, it includes archaebacteria and eubacteria or simply bacteria. So, both these kingdom Protista and Monera, in both of these, the organisms or the parent cell divides into two to give rise to new individuals. Let us see that. Look here. This is the example that you have. You can see here the amoeba. Amoeba divides now by binary fission. Amoeba grows in size and divides by binary fission into two daughter cells. So this is what the cell division or division of the parent cell into two daughter cells. At the same time, we have here yeast. In the yeast, you see, budding takes place. This is the bud. So, cell division in unicellular organism, yeast is also a unicellular fungal member. So, you do come across budding in case of yeast, Saccharomyces, and binary fission in case of amoeba. Amoeba shows binary fission and yeast shows budding. Both these are unicellular organisms, right? So, it is not that unicellular organism only show binary fission, only show division, as indicated here. The parent cell divides and gives rise to two new individuals. The parent cell can divide and give rise to new individual by both, by the cell division as well as by the budding, right? This is what we have Bacterium, Monera, showing you one parent cell dividing into two daughter cells. Thus, in these organisms, cell division itself is a mode of reproduction. Cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. Where? In amoeba. Not only in amoeba, even in paramecium, cell division itself is a mode of reproduction. Many single-celled organisms reproduce by binary fission, where a cell divides into two halves. Each half rapidly grows into an adult, as you see in case of amoeba, paramecium. In yeast, the division is unequal, and small buds are produced that remain attached initially to the parent cell, which eventually gets separated and mature into new yeast organism. So, what you have to remember is that in yeast, we come across asexual reproduction by budding. In amoeba, paramecium, etc., asexual reproduction takes place by binary fission. Of course, when you say about the binary fission, you must know that binary fission is of two types. Binary fission is of two types. One is longitudinal binary fission, longitudinal binary fission, and another one is a transverse binary fission, longitudinal and a transverse binary fission. There are two types of a binary fission, longitudinal and transverse. Longitudinal binary fission you see in organisms like Euglena, and a transverse binary fission you see in organisms like paramecium. Right? Members of the kingdom fungi and simple plants such as algae reproduces through special asexual reproductive structures. Which one? Kingdom fungi. Members of the kingdom fungi and members of algae also show asexual reproduction, but there are special structures, asexual reproductive structures in these. Now, just to recall examples for fungi, kingdom fungi, I hope you remember. Otherwise, all these examples pertain to kingdom fungi or pertain to chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae, rhodophyceae. All these examples should be there at your tongue's tip. There is no meaning in wasting the time studying these examples at the end of the second year at the nick of the time, just prior to NEET exam. No. By this time, you should have been very much thorough with the examples, and I hope you remember the examples. Otherwise, you please make it a point to by heart these examples now itself. Kingdom fungi includes a class of phycomycetes. Phycomycetes includes the examples arm, albugo, rhizopus, mucor, arm. Class ascomycetes includes the examples of Saccharomyces. It is the unicellular fungi. Penicillium, then examples of Claviceps, Aspergillus, Neurospora. Basidiomycetes includes the examples Fuchsinia, Eustylago, Agaricus. And Detritomycetes includes the examples of act or cat, Alternaria, Coletotrichum, Trichoderma. Or cat, C-A-T, Coletotrichum, Alternaria, Trichoderma. So this can be remembered by the abbreviation arm, and or it can be ram, arm or ram, rhizopus, albugo, mucor, and this is act or cat. And this you have to remember Fuchsinia, Eustylago, Agaricus, and these are some of the examples. Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes, Detritomycetes, classes with examples. Please remember them. Look here. Here you find some diagrams pertaining to asexual reproduction, reproductive structures, specialized asexual reproductive structures. A, diagram A or figure A shows zoospores of Chlamydomonas. You know, Chlamydomonas is an example for chlorophyceae, class chlorophyceae. And Euchemicus here in the B, Euchemicus conidia of Penicillium, Ascomycetes fungal member. And this is what you see birds in Hydra belonging to the phylum Coelenterata. And this is what you see gemmule in sponges, and these gemmules are the asexually reproducing bodies of the porifera sponges. So these diagrams you have to remember very thoroughly for the NEET examination. The most common of these structures are zoospores that usually are microscopic motile structure. Zoospores. You can see these are the zoospores, and these zoospores have flagella. When the flagella are there, it is an indication that they are motile. The most common of these structures are zoospores that usually are microscopic motile structures. Motile means they are free swimming. They show locomotion. They show movement. Motile structures. Other common asexual reproductive structures are, as I have already told you, conidia in case of penicillium, birds in case of hydra, and gemmule in case of sponges. So all these examples for asexual reproductive structures you should know very well. Same thing, whatever I have shown before. Now, while in animals and other simple organisms, the term asexual is used ambiguously. In plants, the term vegetative reproduction is frequently used. Asexual, the term asexual means not the involvement of the sex organs. If any reproduction is seen without the involvement of sex organ, it is called asexual. So, in animals and other simple organisms, the term asexual is used unambiguously. We don't have any doubt about it. In all, we use the term asexual reproduction. But in plants, the term vegetative reproduction is frequently used in place of asexual reproduction. So, remember, in plants, we use vegetative reproduction term, and in case of animals, we use asexual reproduction. In plants, the units of vegetative propagation, how they propagate vegetatively, the units of vegetative propagation, such as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb, are all capable of giving rise to new offspring. So, in plants, vegetative propagation takes place by structures like runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb, etc. All these structures, what you call vegetative propagules, these help in asexual reproduction or vegetative reproduction. Let us see that. Look here. This is the diagram given in NCERT book. What you have here, this A is a potato. In this potato, you come across vegetative propagule, the structures by which asexual reproduction takes place, and they are called eyes. So, vegetative propagules are the structures by which asexual reproduction takes place or vegetative reproduction takes place. Eyes of a potato, rhizome of ginger, this is the ginger which we use in our day-to-day life. This is what is called a rhizome of ginger. Bulbil of agave, then leaf buds of bryophyllum, offset of water hyacinth. These are all the vegetative propagules or the structures which enables these particular plants to reproduce asexually. Now, I would like to give a little bit of more information with regard to these vegetative propagules or structures, because you are supposed to know a little bit more about this concept for the NEET examination purpose. Underground stem. underground stem which is present below the earth. In many plants, the stems remain underground, that is beneath the soil, below the soil. In many plants, the stems remain underground. There are many advantages for the underground stem. What is that? Others you will see stems above the ground. Here, you come across the stems beneath the ground, below the ground. What is the advantage of that? They can store plenty of food material. The underground stems are well protected from herbivorous animals, no fear of getting eaten. They can live for longer time. Live for longer time. What we use the term perennation. Even in the dry season, they can remain alive under the soil, and when the conditions becomes favorable, they sprout. The underground stems can carry out vegetative propagation very easily. That is asexual reproduction very easily. Right? The underground stems lack green color because of their geophilous nature. That is a soil-loving nature. Geophilous nature. They can be identified as stems because of the presence of nodes, internodes, scale leaves, buds, and branches. Because of these features, we call that part as a stem. Others would have called it a root. Based on the type of growth, transverse, vertical, oblique, and the part that stores food, main stem, branch, leaf base, etc. The underground stems are classified into several types. Let us see them. Look here. This is what is called a sucker. What is sucker? This is the sucker. This is the sucker. This part is the sucker. This is a sub-aerial branch that arises from the main stem. This is the main stem. This is the root, main stem, that arises from the main stem, sub-aerial. That is not above the ground. It is just beneath the ground. Sub-aerial, below the atmosphere. Initially, it grows horizontally below the soil. Look here. It grows below the soil. This is the level of soil. Level of soil. Below the soil surface, and later grows obliquely upward. They are shorter and stouter than the runners. We shall see that the runners, what is that runner later? They are shorter and stouter than runner. Example, Mentha arvensis, commonly called mint plant. Okay, and chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum. You know chrysanthemum flower. Okay, this is a sucker. Next, rhizome. The rhizome is a thickened underground dorsiventral stem that grows horizontally at a particular depth within the soil. It can be distinguished from the modified root by the presence of nodes, internodes, terminal bud, axillary bud, scaly leaves. All these features enables us to identify them as a stem. The terminal bud develops aerial shoot that bears inflorescence, aerial, which is coming above the ground, aerial. Adventitious roots develop on the ventral surface of the rhizome. Rhizomes are perennial. They remain under the ground for some time during unfavorable condition. When the favorable condition comes, they propagate. And vegetative propagating structure and rhizome is of following types. Let us see that. Root stock. They are upright or oblique with their tips reaching the soil surface. Alocasia, this is what you have, and banana, right? These are all root stalks, rhizomes, a type of rhizome, root stock in banana. Of course, we use the term rhizome also. They are upright or oblique with their tips reaching the soil surface. That once they grow, tips reach the soil surface, it comes up. Okay, tip of this root stalks. Straggling. They are horizontal in position and generally branched. Example, Nelumbo, Nucifera, lotus. Then ginger. This is what you have the ginger plant. Curcuma, turmeric. These are the common examples for straggling. Remember, this is also a type of rhizome. All this whatever I'm telling you, these are the types of rhizome. Tuber. Stem tuber is the tuberous tip of an underground branch. It occurs beneath the soil at any depth. Look here, these are all the potato tubers. The axillary branches, or what you say, stolons, that are produced near the soil surface grow into the soil and their tip becomes swollen due to accumulation of starch and proteins. Example, Solanum tuberosum, potato. The potato is the example for tuber. Tuber is a type of rhizome. In potato, the stem nature is evident by the presence of eyes. The presence of eyes. Whatever that you say, eyes, on its brownish corky surface. Each eye is a pit-like structure and represents a node. Each eye is a node. At the rim of the eye, scale leaf scar is seen. You can see that. Scale leaf scar is seen at the rim of the eye. Axial bud is situated in the pit of the eye. The stem tubers are differentiated from the tuberous roots by the presence of vegetative propagating eyes. Corm. The corm is also an underground modification of main stem. This is what you have the corm. It goes vertically at particular depth in the soil. The corm stores food material and becomes tuberous. It is non-green in color, conical, cylindrical, or flattened in shape. The corm bears scale leaves at each node. You can see that scale leaf, each node. In the axis of these scale leaves, axial buds arise which grow into daughter corm. This is what you have the corm. Examples for this corm includes Amorphophallus, Colocasia. This is very important examples that you have to remember. Amorphophallus and Colocasia. This is what you have Amorphophallus. And bulb. Bulb is a specialized underground stem, bears roots on its lower side and rows at fleshy leaf bases or fleshy scales on the upper side. So, bulb is of two types, as you can make out. You have here, this is what is a tunicated bulb, as you see in case of onion, or that is Allium cepa or Allium sativum. Here also you come across this tunicated bulb, right? It is a scaly bulb, as you see in case of a lily. Remember, bulb is another underground stem. Now we have to look into the phylloclades. What is phylloclade? Phylloclade is also known as a cladophyll. Phylloclade is a special modified photosynthetic stem present mostly in xerophytes which live in the dry area. Phylloclade. Special modified photosynthetic stem. What you have to remember is only this much. You have to remember that it is a modified photosynthetic stem present in the dry areas. Phylloclade is also known as cladophyll. Example is Opuntia, Casuarina, Cocoloba, Ruscus. I shall show you the picture. This is what you have the Opuntia plant, and you can see that a flattened stem here, and greenish in color, and they are concerned with the photosynthesis. In Opuntia, the leaves are modified into spines, and the stem becomes a fleshy leaf like a phylloclade. In a Casuarina, this is what you have the Casuarina, the leaves are modified into scales. Cladode. These are modifications of the stem and branches of a limited growth. It has only one internode. Only one internode. That is why it is called cladode. Each cladode is, these are all cladode what you come across. Each cladode is green, flat or cylindrical leaf-like structure. Asparagus is example for this cladode. The leaves are reduced to curved spines. So these are all modification of the stem. Whatever you see. And branches of limited growth. Cladode, you have to remember, cladode is found in asparagus. Phylloclade or cladophyll is found in Opuntia casuarina. This is the same diagram pertaining to cladode in asparagus. So, sub-aerial stem modification. It is not completely aerial, not completely, it is underground. These weak stem plants grow prostrate and develop adventitious roots from their nodes. Creepers are of three kinds: runners, stolons, offsets. You must know which is the example for runner, which is the example for stolen, which is the example for offsets. Runner. These prostrate means bending. Prostrate aerial stem has a long internode and creeps horizontally. Look here, creeps horizontally, long internode. This is node, this is a node, This node, this internode, long internode. This prostate slightly it bends, slightly bends. Here estimates a long internode and clips horizontally. Example is oxalis cynodon, right? This is what you have runners. You can see that runners, long internode between the nodes. And stolon, they are special kinds of runners which initially grow upwards like audience branches and then arch down. Initial grows upward, then arch down, then arch down. And then it is known as a stolon. Example for stolon is a strawberry, peppermint, mentha, and jasminum. These are examples for stolons. Offset. Offset is the one which is found in aquatic plants. Here, they are weak, elongated horizontal branches of one internode that arises in the axial fillet. Right? The offset are found in Eichhornia, water hyacinth, and pistia also. They are found usually in aquatic plants and rarely in terrestrial plants. Offsets. We can see here. This is what offset in case of the pistia. Eichhornia, offset. Right? These are the features pertaining to these vegetative propagules. These structures are called vegetative propagules. What is a vegetative propagule? Vegetative propagule is a vegetative structure that can become detached from a plant and give rise to a new plant, bud, sucker, spore, etc. Obviously, since the formation of these structures does not involve two parents, the process involved is asexual. You must have heard about the scourge or load of the water bodies or about the terror of Bengal. Terror of Bengal is nothing but refers to the aquatic plant water hyacinth. Even when you look into any pond, in any city, any lake, it is full of water hyacinth, which is one of the most invasive weed. It is not our endemic species. It is exotic, found growing wherever there is standing water. It drains oxygen from the water, which leads to the death of fishes. We are going to study more about this water hyacinth in the chapter 13 and 14. You may find it interesting to know that this plant was introduced in India because of its beautiful flowers and shape of leaves. And now, today it has become headache because we cannot get rid of this water hyacinth at all. That much problematic weed it is now. Since it can propagate vegetatively at a phenomenal rate and spread all over the water body in a short period of time, it is very difficult to get rid of them. Very, very difficult. No, you cannot get rid of them at all. See, this is what water hyacinth you have. Entire lake, entire water source gets filled with this particular plant without leaving a centimeter of a gap between. And whatever animals that live beneath, they get suffocated and they get killed. Right? These are the flowers of that water hyacinth. Terror of Bengal, Eichhornia. Right? Are you aware how plants like potato, sugarcane, banana, ginger, dahlia are cultivated? You know, all these have vegetative propagules. Have you seen small plants emerging from the buds called eyes of the potato tuber, from the rhizomes of the banana and the ginger? When you carefully try to determine the site of origin of new plantlets in the plants listed above, you will notice that they invariably arise from the nodes present in the modified stems of these plants. They arise from the nodes. When the nodes come in contact with the damp soil or water, they produce roots and new plants. Similarly, adventitious buds arise from the notches present at the margin of the leaves of bryophyllum. It also forms a new plants. This ability is fully exploited by gardeners and farmers for the commercial propagation of such plants. It is interesting to know that asexual reproduction is a common method of reproduction in organisms that have a relatively simple organization. Remember, organisms which possess simple organization only show asexual reproduction, like algae and fungi, and that they shift to sexual method of reproduction just before the onset of adverse condition. Asexual, that is vegetative, as well as sexual methods of reproduction are exhibited by the higher plants. On the other hand, only sexual mode of reproduction is present in most of the animals. So, we are going to study the sexual reproduction in our next class.